that need for you to pay it forward, show the next generation how they can also be successful. That is what drives me to do the work that I do now.
You're listening to She's Got Drive podcast, the podcast that inspires women to be a driver in their own life with the life and stories of Black women with drive. And I'm your host, Shirley McAlpine. I'm a business consultant, an executive coach, and a leadership facilitator, working with people and organizations to live their lives by design and not default. Welcome back to another episode of She's Got Drive. And we are at the end of February already. And we are on the bridge, on the cusp of going into a new month. I know we say this every year, but the year is moving so fast, but it's been a full and exciting beginning of the year too. So long may it continue. Let's keep rocking and rolling. The upside is the days are getting longer, the mornings are lighter, and so all is well with the world. All is well with the world. I wanted to, obviously February is Black History Month. So, it's always good to be kind of inspired and fed by lots of different kind of inputs that people are putting out there for us to consume and take and to think and pause, to celebrate our Black history and celebrate people who have made history and have allowed us to be who we are today. And so it's just amazing to read all the various people that we come across who we literally don't hear about. And in this last week of February, we have lost a historical figure, Katherine Johnson, who passed away at the ripe age of 101. And if you don't know who Katherine Johnson is, then you need to know who she is, because she was an American mathematician whose calculations of orbital mechanics at NASA were critical to the success of the first and subsequent US space flights that occurred. She calculated precise trajectories that would let Apollo 11 land on the moon in 1969, and after Neil Armstrong took those historical steps, let it return to Earth. Her work was hidden for 33 years. She worked at NASA for 33 years and no one knew about it. Her, along with a series of other African-American mathematicians. And really, it became more broadly known with the film Hidden Figures that came out in 2016. So thankfully and that's the power of art. That's the power of film. That's the power, is that it allows us to celebrate more broadly and to get information in a way that we would not get information had it not been for that. So she finally got acknowledgement. And in 2015, President Barack Obama awarded her the Presidential Medal of Freedom, and NASA in 2017 named a building in her honor, the Katherine G. Johnson Research Facility. So we honor her. We honor you, Katherine Johnson. May you rest in peace for all that you gave. And I also it feels like an appropriate time to note that there are many hidden figures currently working away in different environments, be that in schools, in areas of business, in politics, in health and the health space, in the arts. There are lots of hidden figures, Black women or women of color, doing amazing, sterling, stonking work. And we don't know who you are, but we know that you're out there. We know that you're treading out every day and doing phenomenal work, and that everything that you are doing is allowing us to be who we are in the world. And that's why this podcast, so it's like discovering those women who are doing amazing stuff in the world, and just for us to be inspired by that. But I know that every step, every move that a Black woman makes in her work enables me to tread forth and to do the things that I get to do in the world too. So shout out to all the hidden figures. Shout out to us. And thank you, Katherine Johnson, for everything that you gave, everything that you endured, and everything that you mastered in your life, in your very rich life. Thank you. I couldn't go without having a moment with Katherine Johnson, really and truly, and all those women. So it feels really appropriate actually as well, this week's episode, and why this episode is my final interview with someone from UNCF. So we've had Teresa Bedon, was our first one. We recently had Meredith Anderson, and now we've got a woman called Taliah Givens, who I'll tell you more about in a second. So women who are working to forward the future for the future. Can you say that? For the future? Future forward? To support the future of African American young people through and support the work of African American historical Black colleges. And so it feels fitting that this is the last interview for my UNCF series is happening today. But before I do that, before I go to Taliah and tell you more about her, before we go to that interview, I just want to let you know that every Monday night you will find me on my Facebook Live at 6:30. Find me on my Facebook Live at 6:30. I hop on for 10, 15 minutes, but there's gold in them there hills. So check me out on Facebook Live. Send me a question. If there's a question that you have in your life that you want to ask a coach, ask Shirley the coach a question, send me a question. You know how to contact me. You can DM me at Shirley McAlpine. You can send it via my website, shirleymcalpine.com/contact me. Send me a question and I'll answer a question, about your life, about coach, anything around coaching, like my coach. That's what I do. So send me a question. I'll answer a question on your Facebook Live. And in the meantime, there's a number of things that I'm covering, topics that I'm going to cover each week. So check me out on my Facebook Live. And in March, I start Instagram Lives as well. So send me a question. I'll answer a question. Okay. So let's go on to Taliah and let me tell you about her. Taliah Givens is an engineer who shifted her career and started to use her analytical education to solve the social educational equations of today, from K through 12 to higher education sector. She's originally from New Jersey. She's got a bachelor's degree in computer engineering and electrical engineering from Georgia Tech and Alabama University. And she started her career as an Optical Solutions Engineer. I wish I knew what that was, but Optical Solutions Engineer, wow. And then Taliah has worked extensively over the 15 years connecting segmented public and private sector systems and agencies into integrated systems to better serve the needs of youth and education organizations with equity and efficacy. She is the Senior Director of UNCF's Student Professional Development Program, and she's led the strategic direction and management of over 30 UNCF internship programs designed to both build workforce diversity and provide diverse students with valuable career experience and professional training for effective transition from college to career. You're going to love Taliah. It's a rich conversation, and we're going to find out how an engineer ended up at the UNCF. I give you Taliah Givens.
Oh, thank you so much, Shirley. I am excited to be here. This is definitely an honor.
It's an honor for me to be able to spend some time with you. Why don't we start with you sharing with our listeners what is it that you do at UNCF and your role, and then how you came to do what you're doing.
I'm celebrating a 5-year anniversary this year being at UNCF, which is in the United Negro College Fund. I was hired in to basically help the the Division of Scholarships and Programs, reconnect all of their what we call corporate scholars programs into one umbrella. And they wanted to call the Department of Student Professional Development Programs. At that time, I was a good almost 10 years, about 8 years into living in Washington, D.C. and working in the sector of higher education and K-12 education and career development specifically. And so when the opportunity opened up, I was definitely looking for a new opportunity. So I started my career as an engineer. So I was a Black female engineer for a number of years.
Wow.
Right. And then I did a career transition into what I do now. One of my mentors was, he is currently the executive director of the National Society of Black Engineers, Dr. Carl Reed. I met him in my journey. And we crossed paths in my journey because he was a person who was an engineer and he was now a Black leader at an organization he transitioned from what we call being a mentor to being a sponsor.
Okay,
and he put my name, right. And he put my name forward and my experience forward to his colleague, and then the rest is history. I had to come in and really explain why I was passionate about this work we call internship programs and professional development for students, and why it's important, and how my career has shaped that work over the course of the 8 years that I've already been in the Washington, D.C. area. And it was just really the right timing in the right place.
And so thank you for sharing all that, because there's so much in there, as well as like in sharing your journey to get in here. You know, I'm kind of trying to think, should we go to the engineering piece as a Black female? Should we go to the power of sponsorship and mentorship? Should we go to the power of like, what does it feel like when you transition into, out of a particular field into the field that you want?
Let's go on the journey together. We can start with, how do you go from being a young person in a inner city of Paterson, New Jersey, where I'm from, and to end up in an engineering program all the way down to Alabama, right?
Yeah,
Alabama
let's do
A&amp.
that, because really, so how did that happen? And then what was it like for you as a Black female engineer?
I grew up in Paterson, New Jersey. My mom and dad, were working class factory worker. My mom was a factory worker. My dad was an auto mechanic in his early career. And I came up through the Catholic school system, so I didn't go to traditional public school. We sacrificed, a lot to be able to put us through, at that point, a Catholic school. There weren't any charter schools per se in the area. That it wasn't that season, right? And so in that experience, I also had a really, great foundation through my community, my family, my school community, as well as my church community. Really had great mentors throughout my whole kindergarten through 12th grade experience. So even though I went to Catholic school, I grew up in the Methodist church. A lot of great leaders around me, all, again, a working class community, right? But there was a great foundation of family in that community, Black history, and cherishing and knowing and growing up knowing that I was descendant of kings and queens, in Africa. And so it was a very rich experience. I guess I grew up in the African and Methodist Episcopal Church, so you can't get more African than that, right? So when you start learning, well, why do we call it that? So then you start learning your history about the Black church and how they help to form community. And so getting a really good foundation in my education. I was a good student. It was expected. I had parents that expected excellence. There was no bringing home, the mediocre grades. My father always used to say, like, if I had to be in the fields, going to school and taking care of a farm, and all you have to do is get up every day and go to school, then I want to see excellence on that report card, right? So they set a standard. But one of the other good things is that, again, in my church community, it was expected that you were going to college. You saw that all around you. The adults that were in my church that I grew up in, the adults in my community organizations, and we saw my peers, those who were coming up ahead of me, we would be together, we would go to high school, and then, they eventually went to college. And so at some point, we had to make a decision on where you were going to school, but the expectation through the school, through my family, and through my church was always there. So I had to decide, like, what do I want to do? When you're a good student, you pretty much, make decent grades. Making a decision on what you're going to study in college can often be a process. I loved dance. I studied dance. I had opportunity through community-based programs. My parents could not afford dance school.
Right.
They were paying Catholic school tuition. They couldn't afford dance school. So through community-based programs, I was able to get an opportunity to test out the arts, right? And test out and cultivate what I love to do, which was dance. And I had an opportunity also through my school to actually get exposure to computer programming, if you could believe that, at the age of 8.
Wow.
And right. So this is back when you had DOS-based systems.
Exactly, right? So, yeah,
And
for people now, young people now, they're like, I don't understand what the big deal is. It's like, oh, because there wasn't a computer in many
my
places,
house,
right? That's
right.
right.
There was no computer in my house.
Yeah.
There's this all at school, and we are doing, eventually we did get a computer, a compact computer,
Right.
at home. But I had an opportunity to learn programming at a very young age, and then that grew from there in high school to learn C programming when I was in high school. I got involved in the NAACP at a very young age.
Wow.
So that's a significant part of the story, because I got exposure to that when I was 11 years old. In middle school, I think, is a great time period where families, parents can really start getting their kids a lot of exposure to different things. My parents had membership in this historic organization and were active members, right? I got a kind of in middle school age, and it was time for me to take the step out of my normal pattern and get involved in my community. I kind of went the route of where I saw my friends going, right? So they were involved in this wonderful organization, and it opened up a world of opportunities for me to see young people at high school age being able to run meetings, plan events, getting actively involved in what was happening in the local community of Patterson, to learn who our local leaders were and be civically engaged was just, and to learn the historical context of the organization, but then also even before that, they really lifted up our Black history to us, and so you got it from all different fronts, this leadership idea that you are a leader, you have value, you have to stand up, you have to speak, you have to let people know who you are and not be ashamed of that. It was groomed throughout all these different experiences. And so I was able to join that organization, become a member. And then by the time I was in high school, I was holding a committee office. And then I became president of my council and things like that. So I began to grow in that experience. I took my dance experience, and I was able to utilize that within this national competition that they host through the NAACP, and actually compete in dance through this organization. So through the NAACP, through the AXO program. And so it just, again, it opened up a lot of different experiences, getting internships, learning about pre-college programs. I learned about pre-college programs, and specifically a pre-college engineering program, by being a member of my local NAACP Youth Council. And so when I was a junior in high school, I got a chance to go to NGIT and test out the waters in a pre-engineering prep bridge program. And that gave me the leverage when it came time to go to college to really demonstrate that I'm serious about being an engineer. So when I applied to those programs, I had an opportunity to show that I was really serious about that. And my uncle was a person that really put the bug in my ear about specifically studying computer engineering. He said that'll be an industry that's really, really coming up. You really need to think about computer engineering. The exposure to Black colleges and Black college life through being in NAACP, and then having a focus on that I wanted to do computer engineering together, led me to want to apply to a HBCU that had computer engineering as its degree program. And so at that time, this is the early 90s. There weren't that many computer engineering
Yes, I bet.
programs at all in the country, let alone at a HBCU, right, at a historically black
Right.
college and university. And so it narrowed down my pool. And so lo and behold, when it became time to apply, I ended up applying to about 5 schools, and I got a full scholarship to go to the Alabama A&M University in Huntsville, Alabama, because it had a dual degree program. And I got a full scholarship to attend Alabama A&M University, which was awesome. It was very unexpected, but it was definitely a culmination of good grades, great community, and leadership development all the way from middle school through high school.
That's
And
incredible.
and there was one other important factor in this story where the NAACP part comes into play is that if you think about the book, The Outliers by Malcolm
Yes.
Gladwell,
Yep.
my outlier story lies in the fact that at the year that I graduated from high school and my year of applying to college, Bill Clinton was president. He had appointed Hazel O'Leary to be the Secretary of Energy. And she came during my junior year of high school to the national conference of the NAACP at the national convention. And she talked about developing this scholarship program. And I was in the room. I remember being in the room and seeing her on stage, listening, but not realizing the implications and the impact that she was going to be having on me within the next year.
Wow.
And a year later, she launched the scholarship program in partnership with the NAACP. It was called the NAACP U.S. Department of Energy Scholarship. And it gave all the recipients, it was 20 of us, $50,000 in scholarship to pursue degrees in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. And you had to be a member, a student under the NAACP to apply. But one of the key factors was your leadership and how much leadership had you exhibited in the organization, and then what do you want to do with your STEM degree? And so, having been in the organization from the time I was 11 until the time I was, even through college, I had amassed a number of leadership opportunities, and at that time I was on the National Youth Work Committee, so I had held a national office at the time, and I didn't know, there was no way for me to know that getting involved in something that I was so passionate about and something I enjoyed so much would yield such a return.
Right.
But it was a really awesome moment to receive that additional scholarship because I was a dual degree student. So I wouldn't be able to take my presidential scholarship all the way through to the dual degree program because I had to transfer from Alabama A&M to Georgia Tech after the first 3 years.
Right.
But because she afforded me that scholarship, it was able to help me be able to get through a 5-year engineering degree.
Wow.
And so that's how you go from starting out
Yes.
in engineering. Yeah. And it was tough. It was tough, but it was a huge reward on the other end.
And in your story, in your experience, you can also see why you are at UNCF, really, like all that experience
Exactly.
with the NAACP, the experience of getting the scholarships, the connection, the mentoring, there's all of those pieces. It all leads to Rome. Share with us, what does it mean in terms of the internship program that you do here at UNCF? And I know that you have been successful in expanding student participation in the program. So what is it that you aim to do, and what are you accomplishing in the work that you're doing?
We call this student professional development because we know that it isn't just about having the job. It isn't just about getting the internship. It really is about, one, exposure, letting college students understand about what opportunities are really out there for them in various different industries, right? And then helping them really prepare themselves, because many of these students are great campus leaders. I mean, they can tell you all the wonderful organizations that they are a part of. They are taking on the offices and being leaders on their campuses. But there is a different step of taking that leadership, that initiative, and now helping them make sure that they're activating that leadership in a different way, but still at a high capacity way when they step into a corporation or a nonprofit organization or whatever that industry environment might be. I lead a team of about 5 people now, but there's been as many as 9. We help companies think about how to really tap into and cultivate the talent, the wonderful talent that we have within our historically Black colleges and universities. Our students are really top notch, and our institutions are doing a great job. But it's oftentimes HBCUs are overlooked as far as where really great talent is that are entrepreneurial style talent and where it lies. And so we work with companies who say, I really need to see more diversity in my corporation, or I want to impact my industry. And we help craft internship programs inclusive of professional development programming and workshops and training to ensure that not only are the students getting their foot in the door, that they're really prepared to show up strong. And within the first 3 years, the department grew as we were consolidating our programs into one umbrella. We've served over 470 students in the past 6 years of program cycles. So I've been at UNCF 5 years, but we've had 6 program cycles since I've been here, and we've had over 470 students that have an opportunity to get an internship, and over 900 students have received professional development training. 34 internship programs have been established. Year over year, we're seeing how the benefit of diverse internships are really impacting various industries. And we have really served so many different types of companies. The public relations industry. Right. We have worked in hospitality industry and travel and tourism, the finance industry. One of my oldest programs is the Walton UNCF K-12 Education Fellowship, and that is an education-based internship program that has had upwards of 25 different partners. But the Walton Family Foundation established it with UNCF to really address the issues of building African-American leaders, making an impact in quality and equitable education for students of color. Because as you know, the education reform movement has been very strong for the past 10 years. Yeah. But oftentimes we don't see as many of our people who look like you and I leading in developing these wonderful programs. And it's important that the people who are leading this effort share the background and share in that work for the students that they are actually building those programs to serve, which are many low-income and students of color. I am as a part of their journey, building this team and building this work to really continue to make an impact across various industries: healthcare, finance, social enterprise, entrepreneurial opportunities. Now, we host the annual Student Leadership Conference. And what's different about our leadership conference is that, again, it's that place where the students have successfully secured the internship, but we have a day and a half, 2 to 3 days, 1 day, 1.5 day boot camp where we're bringing those students together. And before we launch them out into the deep of that summer experience, we're bringing African-American leaders in front of them. We are doing workshops to talk about what does it mean to show up strong? How are you going to make the most of this internship experience? What are your goals? And how does that align with the type of work that this organization is going to be doing? And how are you going to manage up to make sure that you are meeting the goals of your projects, the goals of your expectations of your supervisor, helping them with the tools to make sure that day one, they come in with a plan and they're taking time to learn their organization, adapt to the culture, be professional, and come out on the other end with one of two things. You want that job offer, or you want the really strong recommendation.
So I can hear, one of the things I hear in your speaking is you're so passionate about what you do. I'm curious about, what is it that fuels you that passion, in terms of this? So what is it specifically about this that you think, I'm fulfilling my purpose, or this is what I'm supposed to be doing at the UNCF? I know that your background, there's such a strong connection, but I'm curious about if you had to get to the essence of what motivates you in this, then what is it?
Success is where preparation meets opportunity, right? And I think looking at my story, as I grew up and I then went into my career, I said, I have to have a mission. The mission has been what drove me when I was, in back home growing up in Patterson. And then when I got into my career, I definitely wanted to make sure that the work that I do is helping the greater good. And there's a lot of ways that you can do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So why specifically this way? I think when you have that positive experience, when someone has made an opportunity for you, that need for you to pay it forward
Okay.
and show the next generation how they can also be successful. That was a key driver. And that is what drives me to do the work that I do now.
Right.
We have to continue to show young people the path, but at the same time, they have to have the freedom and the independence to choose which direction they want to go. But if we're not at least illuminating the opportunity and the possibilities of all the areas they can go, then they're going to be stuck in a box.
Right.
And so you wonder why I went from engineering into this work. Well, but this work is so much aligned with my experiences that I had as a youngster.
Yeah.
And it's aligned with the opportunities that I got through college. But nobody showed me where I could fit it in as a career. And I had to find that for myself, right?
Yeah.
And take the leap to do it. I take a risk in shifting my career into what really gave me a passion every day, what really got me up in the morning. Mm-hmm. And so when I see an opportunity and when I see a young person getting their foot in the door, and I see a young person saying, I've been interested in this area, but I just didn't know how to make it happen. And then I find out about that opportunity and I make that connection, that gives me energy. Yeah. And I really love helping young people seize the opportunity and make the connection. And oftentimes it isn't just about the connection. They have to be developed to be able to take advantage of the opportunity. Mm-hmm. And so what I thought initially when I got into this work is like, just show people what the opportunities are. Just open the door. And I realized that, and in many instances, when you're working with young people who may not have the confidence, or someone never told them that they were great, mm-hmm. and we have to help them see themselves in these spaces. They have to help show them that you have the talent, the drive, and we're giving you at an institution that's giving you the education. All you got to do is put that together, and we're going to help you get the first step, into making your mark in the world.
Right. If you think about your family and as you were growing up and the messaging you got from your family, and you talked about that earlier, what was those key messages that you took away that is feeding your success today, do you think?
You come from a legacy. My family really helped us connect back to our past. We used to do family reunions every year, mm-hmm. and we would go back down south and see our family and hear the stories about how we got to where we were. So that idea of legacy, and that you're representing more than just yourself, okay. when you step out the household. It was definitely one of those things where we were definitely taught and developed to understand that as an African-American youth and one day African-American adult in this country, you are going to have to work harder to be seen as equal. And I was like, wow, really? They're like, yes. But they explained to us why that is, right? And there is still a struggle today, right? But we took that on and said, okay, but we're not going to let that hinder us. We're not going to let that be a crutch. Mm-hmm. It was expected that you were going to succeed. My dad used to say, the word can't is not in your vocabulary. Right. I said, okay, got it. So, you always know that you can do anything you set your mind to. Right. And so he did not want to hear us say, I can't, My mom used to say, make a move, even if it's wrong. Just make a move, Now, oftentimes she said that while sitting in traffic, right? Yes. But there was wisdom there. She was like, yes. You cannot just sit stagnant. You gotta seize the day, not be afraid of your mistakes. And sometimes you can learn from those mistakes. And I was this kid, until growing up as a kid who typically did well in school. Yeah. When it got hard, and everything I knew to do I was doing, but I wasn't seeming to cut the mustard. I had to lean into, okay, legacy. You aren't the first person to go through an engineering program at Georgia Tech.
Right.
Your university at Alabama A&M gave you the great foundation. Let's build on that. And so I had to not fall into that rut.
Yes.
But life will get hard, and I had to lean into those lessons that can't wasn't in my vocabulary. You got to make a move, find the resource, and if it's wrong, you'll make the course correction. And that was hard, that was hard lesson to learn when I was in college. But it definitely has helped me as I've moved forward.
And there's such powerful messages that you had. The make a move is such a powerful message. It seems like almost a simple one, but when we stay stuck and it tells us to, there's always a move that you can make. Even when you
Right.
can't even see it, the thing is there's something that I can do. What am I gonna do? And then you
Exactly.
just really that self. In what came up for me when you were talking that coaching of yourself in those moments. It said, I'm not the first person. So what can I lean on in this moment to get me through this experience? And I've talked before about on this podcast, the difference between that inner critic that speaks
Right.
to us, or what I call your inner warrior. And so who's going to win? Or when I'm speaking, sometimes when I'm speaking to my son when he was younger, he would talk about the different people speaking to him on each shoulder, and one of them was telling him to do things that wasn't the right thing to do, and the other one was saying, "Yeah, don't do that. That's not the right thing to do." And so the thing is, he'll distinguish which is the voice that won. So the one that was telling me to do the right thing won today, Mummy, or the one that's telling me not to do the right thing was the one that won, and that's how it works, isn't it? That inner critic, does it all? Can you allow that to win, or do you allow your inner warrior to win?
Yeah, and it got harder as I got older.
Yes.
It was a little bit when I was at Georgia Tech, by reminding myself I wasn't the first African American student to go to complete this place, so it can be done.
Yes.
And I was determined. I said, I am not stupid.
Right.
I was like, I am not stupid. If I can get to where I've gotten to this point, there is a way to succeed here.
Yeah.
And then, there were resources. There were offices of student success that had the tutors, that had a program, and God bless them, because there was a unique office that was at the institution that was designed for the minority students. And if you just leaned into the resources, you will pass. You will get through. Yeah. But those students who did not, who kind of went at it on their own, did not succeed as well.
Right.
And so oftentimes the resources are right around you, but you have to, take a breath and use it.
There's so many things that's out there that we can use to make ourselves small, to deny our skills and our abilities and so on. You have to just find the place where you excel, and you will.
Right.
And you just need to locate yourself in the right place and the right mindset, because there are certain things that we're going to be fantastic at, and there are some things that we're just not.
I literally went into Google search and I did MPA space ampersand space fellowships, right, and did a search. And the first thing that came up at that time was this organization called National Urban Fellows. And it was an MPA program. I had never heard of it before, right, but at that time it had been around for 30 years. And it was uniquely designed to help African Americans get their master's in public administration, to build diversity and leadership in the public sector. Right. That's where I'm saying opportunity and preparation come together. I thought about applying to some other programs, but I said this was like the best opportunity for me. I was like, they're going to offer me an opportunity to get a master's degree full fellowship. It'll be accelerated. It'll be a faster pace than normal, but I'm up for the challenge, right? And then also, I didn't have to take a GRE. And by applying to the fellowship, you automatically get acceptance into the the institution for the grad program.
Right.
And so it was a great opportunity. I was like, oh my goodness, this is exactly what I'm looking for. The rest is history. It took me, I didn't apply that year. I waited a year because I wanted to really work on my application. But as soon as it opened up, I was the first application to complete the system because I had, did my essays, got my transcripts, did everything I had to do. That opportunity with the National Urban Fellows Program was the launching pad into getting the opportunity to realize the next level of my dream of working in the public sector, of working in education, getting my master's degree, and coupling that with my engineering background. And people often say to me, like, how is it that you have an engineering degree, but you work in this sector, and how do you put it together? And I would not have known this until I started looking for my next positions after grad school. I would not have realized that there is a value in understanding how to solve problems.
Yes.
There's a value in understanding and how to analyze a situation, determine what factors you have at play in the challenge, and then figuring out what's missing and trying to determine what's the equation that's going to solve this problem. And that is essentially what all of my educational background afforded me, which was the opportunity to really understand how to look at challenges, issues, problems in a systemic way.
Right.
And I've been at every job I've been able to achieve, every level I've gone to, many of the people gravitate to bringing me on board to allow me to work in this field because they want that problem solving, analytical mindset at the table with them as they're trying to figure out how do we get students from one point to the next,
One thing I'm loving about your journey is it really speaks to people who start their career or their commitment in a career that's a particular field, and that you can take a left turn. If you really feel like that isn't where you want to spend your time, that isn't where you're being called to, that it's possible to shift, and that may take some time, but it is possible to shift to work in the area that you care about and that feeds your soul. And so you don't have to stay in the place, and that you can utilize the skills that you got from the place that you're utilizing that approach that you got trained in.
It's important to know also that sometimes your strengths can also be an Achilles heel in that journey, because you can overanalyze sometimes. That's a challenge I can often face. I'm a connector, and seeing things in a systemic way can be very valuable. But sometimes when you're working in a team, or the team may not be ready to take that leap yet, or they may not see that connection just yet. It doesn't mean you throw away your gift or you throw away what you bring to the table. It's just now finding the right timing to bring it forward, and not resenting the fact that you saw this 10 months ago.
I think that's so good. That's so powerful. I think, I'm a coach and a consultant, and sometimes, when you enter into a system newly, an organization or a space, or start to work with someone newly, there are things that you see just because you're new, because it's what I call the water that the person's swimming in. So when you're swimming in that water, it's like what I do every day. So you're less likely to see some things. So that's the power, obviously, consultants, coaches, and so on, is you come in and you're able to see things. But the question is, are they ready to hear it? Take that information and use it to best effect. And so you're trying to figure out right timing for delivery of the information. So I think you're speaking to that. You can see that's one of your superpowers. But the other part of it is, when do you let everyone else know that's one of your superpowers? And sometimes they're not ready.
Or sometimes you let them know, but they may not be ready to run in that direction with you. just yet, and that's okay. As long as it's not, as long as it's not going to be detrimental, that they seriously overlook a major
Exactly.
factor in the plan. But sometimes it is okay that if they don't go down this pathway right now, we still got to remember that this is an issue, or this is something that we have to address, or here's a really great opportunity. And the people around you may not be ready to go towards that opportunity just yet. Doesn't mean that you, again, bury your head in the sand and don't bring it forward or lift it up. It's just that having patience to the timing, as you said, is important factor when you have the talent of connections and connectedness and systemic viewpoints.
Yeah. I'm wondering whether there's been, or what's been one of your most courageous moments in your life. And that could be in your personal as well as professional life. Something that when you take an action that's on behalf of you, on the behalf of another, that's a heartfelt action. Yeah, so any thoughts on when I ask you that? What comes to mind?
We talked about some of it. My most courageous steps in life are those leaps of faith. When I walked away from being an engineer in its traditional sense, it wasn't just I woke up one morning. I had been contemplating it for over a year. I had accepted a new position. I was at a company, and I accepted a new position. And I just kept hearing the same thing 6 months prior, that you're supposed to develop this new thing. You're supposed to be moving in this direction. And I heard it, wrote out the vision of what it would look like and everything. I had to make a decision to still leave the company that I was at, but then decline the offer of the company I was getting ready to step into. And part of that was that I saw the chaos I was getting ready to walk into, and I was trying to leave where I was because didn't want to deal with the chaos where I was.
Right.
and I said, okay, and it was a leap of faith. And then from that point, it was a 5 months period where I did not have a job. I had a house and everything. And I had to stand in that faith that the next opportunity will open up. And that was one of my most courageous moments, because I had to stand against not only myself, my family was not totally on board with this idea.
Right.
I had the challenge for the first time in my life to do something that was not in line with when my parents agreed I should go. And so where I had the support and they're in my cheering section all this time, in this area, it was they were working against me. And so I had to be clear about what I saw. I had to be clear about every step I took. And my faith in God, my actual faith in Jesus Christ and the scriptures was what led me on that journey. In all things, I know that God works for my good, because he loves me and I'm called according to this specific purpose. And as long as I'm walking in that purpose, there's going to be challenges, yes, but I don't have to shrink back. And I had to grow to that maturity. It wasn't something that happened overnight. I had to literally get myself off the floor, stop crying, and grow up internally, to be able to now be able to share that with somebody else who is scared about what the next chapter could be for them. And it's a daily battle. It's harder now. We all have bills, right?
That's so powerful. Thank you so much for sharing that. And in actual fact, I feel like that's a good place for us to end our time together, with that positive, strong message that, you stand in faith, you follow your intuit, follow your purpose, know that it's, when you have a sense that that it's the right thing to do, even though your environment is saying, what are you doing? That you can stand there and keep moving, or you make a move, as it says, your mum used to say, make a move. Make a move. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon, for being a guest, for sharing your wisdom, for sharing your journey with us. I really appreciate it so much.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate the opportunity to help the next generation. This is just another opportunity in that. I think going forward, I want to give you encouragement in the work that you're doing and how you're sharing these stories with the world. This is a unique platform to be able to do that. And so I definitely want to encourage you to still continue to make your moves as well. I'm going on to write a book one day. I'm working on it now. I'm looking forward to becoming an author, adding author to my bio one day. And so I want to give you applause as you have really offered the opportunity for Black women to really share and support each other. And as we do all these wonderful, great things out here in this world. So I just want to thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you. And listen, perhaps you can come back when you've written your book, and we can talk about what your book's about and the contents of that. That'd be awesome too. I appreciate what you
fantastic. Thank
shared with
you.
me. So have a good rest of the night and evening, and take care.
Take care. Thank you, Shirley.
I hope that you've been inspired to shift gears in your own life. This interview, I always want to share a takeaway. And the thing that, of all the things, there were so many things, right? But one of the things that I really just resonated so much was make a move. Taliah's mum, what her mum said to her, make a move. Do something. So there is always a move you can make. So whenever you feel stuck, whenever you feel like I don't know what to do something, shift, move. Even getting in communication, having a conversation with someone about it, someone you trust who can help you move forward is also a powerful act. So that's one of the things. So if you want to take a mantra for this week, make a move. That's what I'm taking forward with this week. Make a move. And the other thing is, there's never a wrong move, because every move is an opportunity to learn. There's never a wrong move, because every move is an opportunity to learn. I would love to hear from you to find out what you're getting from this episode. What did you get from the series, the UNCF series? We had Teresa, we've had Meredith, we've had and Taliah today. What are you getting from just that whole conversation about what are we doing with our young people and forwarding and supporting them in their own leadership, in their own life, and show up in their careers, and supporting them with having successful careers that's a match for who they are in their current achievement and their potential, and meeting their potential. I always like to hear from you. You can contact me through my Instagram. You can send me a message through my website, and find me on She's Got Drive podcast community page or the She's Got Drive page. And I look forward to hearing from you. She's Got Drive is produced by Cassandra Voltalina. The music is by the awesome all-female band Blonde. The song is called Circle. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, go well and stay well.